The gaming industry is absolutely, positively, 100% cooked. And I mean that in the probably nicest way possible. Whenever a new game gets announced, usually the reception to that game is mostly, looks alright, I guess. And that's been a consistent theme over these past few generations. I think honestly, since the PS4 all the way up until now, I have had that exact same reaction for so many games. Very few and far between do you get a game that makes you go basically insane. And for me, that game is the Doom series. The way they've taken an older game like Doom from the 80s and 90s and made it into a modern masterpiece that I would consider today, like Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. And even the new Doom right now for Doom the Dark Ages looks great, and I'm excited to play it. But very few games hit that mark anymore, and very few games are so creative anymore to try and take new risks. And we're seeing that happen over and over again. And the past 72 hours are basically exposing that as well. Yeah, we're going to talk about a couple of things. You see, yesterday it turns out that the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remaster was actually leaked onto Reddit and Twitter. And in my opinion, I kind of don't like the way it looks. I feel like there's too much brown everywhere, and I feel like they're trying to do this ultra realistic thing where in reality, to me, I feel like Elder Scrolls has always been more fantasy driven than so trying to be super hyper realistic about things. And it kind of just drags everything down, especially compared to the older Oblivion games on the 360 and the PC back then. A lot more color, more vibrancy, more things happening, especially because if you go into lore, Chim being used to create more, whatever. We're not going to go into that. However, though, my personal opinion, the best Elder Scrolls game is Morrowind. That's the best one. Sorry, any other opinion is factually incorrect. The only other one that trumps that is Daggerfall. But hey, that's a fight for another day. The thing is, though, everybody has been losing their minds about this actual remaster happening. And granted, it may not appeal to me visually, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be excited to play another Elder Scrolls game. It's been far too long since Skyrim, and having another TES game to come out and actually give you that feeling of just exploration and just care and craftsmanship and storyline and everything else that goes in between those games. The thing is, though, when you look at what's happening right now and you see the games being released, what other games are you excited about, or what other games are causing this kind of excitement? When you look at something like Marathon being announced over the weekend, things honestly really didn't go that well. I mean, they didn't go well at all when you think about it, or when you look at it. And it's not going to go well continuously for a lot of game developers. And I think people like Bungie and others have a huge uphill battle to fight. When everybody's more excited about a remaster of a 15-year-old game plus to go through instead of actually playing your brand new game, that goes to show you a couple of things right off the bat. That the gaming industry, like I said before, is in fact 100% creatively bankrupt. And it really kind of like begs the question, even though that is a fallacy, why are people more excited about playing an older Elder Scrolls game being remastered today than they are about playing a brand new game? And the idea is basically clown shoes. I mean, look at these clown shoes. This is the kind of design that we're dealing with today in modern gaming. That's I mean, I'm joking right now, but that's kind of like the idea of what's actually happening. I feel like modern gaming today is trying to take itself far too seriously, far too often, either trying to push a political message when they shouldn't be, trying to be hyper realistic when they shouldn't be, or trying to capture an audience that isn't there for them to buy in the first place. And that is where I think the big issue is happening. Too many games nowadays are being made with the modern audience flavor take, but really the reality isn't modern audience. The reality is dumb audience or mass audience appeal. Every developer sadly is trying to go around and do the exact same thing that happened with Dragon Age 2. Remember that? You probably don't. It was when they had a developer interview and the first thing he said was, oh, we're not going to do turn-based combat, which everybody honestly really liked about Dragon Age Origins. What we're going to do is when you press a button, something awesome happens. You push a button, then there's awesome.
The first thing we wanted to do is the combat. So a lot of people, when they played the combat in Dragon Age Origins, they weren't really getting that kind of sense of getting into the heart of battle. So we went to a point, we have one motto on the team in terms of combat, and that's when you press a button, something awesome has to happen. So Button Awesome connected now in Dragon Age 2.
Basically, the most lowbrow dopamine injected thing you could possibly inject into your brain consistently. Even though games like Baldur's Gate 3 completely shattered the mold of what everybody else can do in the gaming industry and had developers freaking out and crying that, hey, they can't do what a couple of guys in some other place did together after making a couple of games just like that, and everybody getting around and saying, hey, holy shit, this is video games. And I think that's the real problem of what's actually happening. When you look at something like Marathon saying, we're going to do an extraction shooter. Boy, I haven't played that 100 times before. Gee, that's going to be not fun at all. Oh, you're also going to turn off voice proximity chat because it's too toxic? Hello? Have you ever been in an Xbox 360 lobby at all? Do you know what Discord is? If you're trying to communicate with people and you're turning off the voice chat because it's too toxic, why not give the players the tools and the abilities to just mute the people that are toxic in their voice chat at all? I played Counter-Strike 1.6 all the way to CS2. You want to talk about toxic? Honey, you haven't seen toxic until you got into the middle of an actual halftime of a Counter-Strike Go match.
People be like, I want halftime and endgame voice comes back. Bro, I would do anything to have this, bro.
And instead of going around and saying, hey, here are the tools to customize your experience, you can do whatever you want with them, they're going to go ahead and say, oh no, we know what's best for you, the player. We're going to just coddle you and protect you the entire time while you're playing and do everything on that end for you there. So you don't have a choice in the matter whatsoever. And that's another big problem too. We're seeing games like Marathon completely basically betray what makes a multiplayer online shooter fun and engaging, and it's being able to engage with the opposite players or the players in your team, regardless of how toxic they are. And on top of that, I can't stop going back to these damn shoes. Who designed this? Who is this for? Who would pick that and be like, yeah, I look good? No, nobody would. Whatever happened to cool designs of video games, to cool art styles, to people going around and saying, holy shit, this looks awesome, and then having cool customization from there. Instead, it's the same old bland purple-yellow color scheme, or orange and blue color scheme, or green and brown color scheme. And trust me, that I've told you about the purple-yellow color scheme, just go back a couple of games this year and see what the colors of the box art is. It's going to be purple and yellow, or some derivative of that directly. I just gave you the red pill for the Matrix. Ooh. But you see, people are more excited about going back and playing older games than they are about playing new ones. I mean, granted, there are a lot of great games coming out this year as well, or games that have come out this year that are honestly fantastic. The Yakuza Pirate game, I gotta play that because I gotta just play more Yakuza in general because they don't take themselves too seriously and they enjoy and they put things in terms of fun first more than anything else. Even if it is the same city, the same characters, and the same setting. That isn't the important part. What's important is gameplay is fun is set first, and then everything else takes a backseat to that. Or things like Doom the Dark Ages coming out in a month. I'm more excited about that because that really shows that the gaming industry can take a lot of property that is honestly fantastic and has a more hardcore dedicated base and create something that people would actually enjoy, from 2016 to Eternal to now Dark Ages, and even giving you, the player, the proper sliders that you need to customize your own kind of experience. And they iterate upon every single game each and every time. And when you talk about iteration, it's exactly why everybody gets so excited about Nintendo games. When you see them take their IP and they create new and interesting styles of what games do and how they provide their IP and their characters and settings, and they make a new twist on it or they add something new to it, and you say, oh, it's the same character, it's the same Mario, but whatever, and you think like, oh man, give them a water pack, that's awesome, you know, like everything is always new and different, even though they're the same kind of characters, are the same characters in that story. And that's what's missing from games today. So many other game developers, like I said, are too focused on trying to make mass market appeal that they're forgetting who their core audience actually is. Grown adult men in their 40s who just want to escape the problems of today's world. And they're not going to be able to escape the problems of today's world if you're going around pushing a political agenda, muting voice chat for proximity, and then also giving them characters that don't look cool and that nobody actually likes. Surprise! Who would have figured that one out? I don't know. But that's exactly why everybody's so excited about the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remaster coming out. And personally, I know this is going to be a hot take. I feel that the game and the screenshots that are leaked don't look that great. Hopefully when the real screenshots come out or when gameplay is actually shown, it looks a lot better. But from what I saw, there's far too much brown, and the realism aspect really doesn't fit very well, in my opinion, for what that game should actually be. I feel like it should be more lush and vibrant in color and more aesthetically pleasing to look at, rather than just being hyper detailed and focused. And that's another problem with gaming today as well, is the ubiquitous use of Unreal Engine 5. Every game starts to look the same. Every game tries to be hyper detailed and hyper realistic when it shouldn't be. Every game tries to be this multi-blockbuster thing of giving you graphics to make your eyeballs bleed when the game runs at 14 FPS, needs DLSS AI frame generation by 7, and then tries to go ahead and re-upscale your resolution from 720p to 4K, and everything looks blurred, muddy, and gross. Nobody wants that anymore, dude. People want just a good-looking game with good gameplay first, and then be able to go ahead and have some fun, for Pete's sake. And that's why everybody's so excited about this remaster. The fact that people are just losing their minds about a game that is 15 plus years old to go around and play instead of all the current games coming out now should be a very huge indicator of where the gaming industry is going. And honestly, the real problems with the industry as well. When you look at a company like PlayStation especially, and I'm picking on PlayStation because they in fact own Bungie now, or they're kind of owning them, or they kind of don't, or they had the board. I don't really care about the technicality of that, but they own Bungie. They bought them, okay? And you look at what Marathon is coming out with, and you look at what Bungie did with Halo, you're like, who are you guys? Like, this isn't Bungie. This isn't what I expected. It's the same thing that I see with Diablo. When I look at Diablo 1 and 2, and then I see Diablo 3 and 4, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Who's there? Who's running the show? What is this? And yeah, this is definitely some old man yells at cloud kind of thing. But the problem is the fact that people are getting more excited about playing older games than they are about playing new ones. And when you look at what the gaming industry is doing, a lot of the issues stem from the fact that gaming, in my opinion, has gotten far too big for its own good. Going around and trying to chase multi-million-dollar franchises, saying, oh, we're going to build a whole new thing, while increasing the price of games to $70, and now Nintendo doing it to $80, and now PlayStation reselling you The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 for $100 bundled together after they've remastered it, remade it, republished it, reduxed it, added more patches, put out additional content, and did all this other garbage bullshit. You now get a letter signed by Neil Druckmann after he just put his balls in your mouth for the last 6 years of the same game without you even getting factions. Yeah. That's a whole thing. But like I said before, the gaming industry is in fact too big for its own good. It needs to have all of this kind of cost recuperated consistently, trying to find new ways of monetizing you, trying to increase the cost of games, trying to reach a bigger audience over and over again. Yet at the same time, by reaching so many people, just diluting everything that made the game good in the first place, by not providing some sort of friction point, or even just the ability to actually create more inside of that game. And that's the big problem. That's why everybody's so excited about the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remaster, is because people are looking back and saying, video games. That's basically what it is. And when you look back at older games, like especially years like 1998, and you see the games that came out during that year, those are certified bangers in just that 1 year. That year alone, in my opinion, completely dwarfs the majority of all games today. 1998. You look at that game list, and you look at the game list in this current modern age, you're going to think to yourself, what happened to video games, man? And yeah, this is an old man yells at cloud moment, but I honestly feel the video game industry needs a true course correction before it gets too big where it's going to fail on its own. And we're seeing this happen over and over again. Marathon may not be a huge failure out the gate, but if they're going to be charging $40 for it, which is the rumor going around, and it's not going to be free to play, and they're not going to have the ability to actually customize your character correctly, and they're not going to be introducing new things that will make you enticed to play the game consistently, then it's going to be another Concord. Granted, not as fast as Concord will probably fail, but it's going to have a very difficult uphill battle overall. And then you look at other games as well coming out, increasing the cost of games, being completely boring and just broken, or just needing patches consistently, or the fact that games really aren't done until about a year and a half after they're originally released, and you're still paying more upon upfront games, and you actually get a better experience when you just wait overall after all the patching and the price drop and the complete edition. It really goes to show, what are we even paying for right now? The games aren't done. You're trying to make me pay more. You're trying to give me microtransactions. You're trying to go ahead and give me more stuff to get into my wallet. And then you're going to go ahead and scold me for not buying day one? For real? The suits in gaming have always been a very difficult thing to deal with because we have a medium that is half art, half business. And if the melding doesn't come together in the right way and one side takes over the other, things can go bad in either side. And what you have is games like Schedule 1 completely dominating the charts, or you have games like Repo providing you actual content and good experiences overall with friends with proximity voice chat, even though it can get kind of toxic, and having some of the best experiences overall. And that's really where you're seeing a lot of things start to shine, is that indie space where a couple of people are making a video game and everybody's having a great time with it. But the fact that they put gameplay first and gamer experience first is what makes them so fantastic. And the more you see about it, the better it starts to happen. And the more you understand from that perspective, the more you see how AAA gaming is going to need a course correction. It has to start off as a small AA game. And that's the big space that's been missing in gaming today. Every company's trying to go for that $70, $80 big blockbuster, sell millions of copies, bleeding edge visual graphics, when in reality what they truly need to do is adjust their scope and size, bring everything down to an actual level where they can create an audience that is going to be dedicated for that game, and then build upon that audience by expanding it consistently, and then providing the features that are going to make more people want to play that game, not just because it's easy to access, but because the mechanics in the gameplay is put first and the game is actually fun. That's the real ticket. That's the real issue, is that game designers and game developers and publishers don't want to make a fun game anymore. What they want to make is a mass market appeal game that is going to just have you drooling on yourself consistently as you're playing. And that's when things get incredibly boring, when the suits take over, the AA space is gone, and there's nowhere else for developers to go except to go indie, which can also be a difficult thing as well, because trying to get noticed is an insane feat altogether. And that's really where I want to put everything all together in this video. The Elder Scrolls 4 Remaster is showcasing exactly to every single game developer and publisher what you need to have people get excited about your game. It's not the graphics, it's not the visuals, it's not, Dark Souls blocking. It's the fact that people are going back and saying, hey, we want to have video games back again. And if they don't put the gameplay experience first, if they don't put the actual player first, and if they try to sit there and get a mass audience to play their game, they're going to keep falling on their face every single time. Oblivion wasn't great because it went to a wider audience. Oblivion was great because it gave you the tools and the ability to have the experience you always wanted to have in a video game. And I feel like if developers and publishers don't get that message directly, they're going to keep doing the same mistake over and over. Bleeding edge graphics, cutting edge, ray tracing, all that other bullshit, but mass market appeal. And then nobody's going to get excited about it because they haven't figured out what makes those games great in the first place. And it's the fact that people that made those games had the soul to make good games. And when you play that game, you know it because you can feel the fact that they cared about that game in the first place. But hey, that's just my hot take on the whole thing. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you feel the same way I do or not? Let me know what you guys have to say. If you want to see more of these hot takes, more gaming news, more PC port reviews, more Steam Deck videos, more fanboy content, and more live streams every Saturday night, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 81,000 subs. And I just want to say thank you guys so very much. If you want to have Discord access or emotes during live streams, become a YouTube member. It's as low as $1. If you don't want to spend the buck, don't sweat it. Just hang out Saturday nights, 8:45 p.m. Eastern. Trust me, you have a hell of a time. With all that being said, though, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you next time. Peace!